Hey Holly. Hey, I have a question. I feel like the slides used to have background color and now they're all white. Am I misremembering? Did they used to have background images and now they're just white?
They look how I remember them when I
Okay.
first reviewed them.
Well, fine then. That's all that matters.
Well, it's about 5:30, so welcome everyone. I guess we'll get started with tonight's brief meeting. Thank you for joining us. My name is Holly Dyer. I'm the Assistant Director for the Trust Land Management Division here at the Office of State Lands and Investments. And I'm happy to be here. I will go ahead and share my screen. Jessica, can you see the presentation all right? Perfect. So we are gathered here today to discuss one of the proposals that is in our office, the Great Ranch Exchange. We are at the point in our process where we would like to solicit public comment for any of those that are here and joining us this evening. Back in April of this year, we were directed to publish a detailed analysis of the proposed exchange. And so we'll go through that briefly. Jessica will guide us through it. And then afterwards, we'll reach out to you and see if there's any comments that would like to be discussed. Just a brief introduction about the Office of State Lands and Investments. So it is a state agency. We do have 4 different divisions, as you can see. We have one head director, and that is Director Scoggin. There are 4 divisions. There's the Trust Land Management Division. There's the Forestry Division. We have Field Services Division, and we also have Administrative Services Division. Where I'm located and where Jessica and I both are housed is under the Trust Land Management Division. Again, I'm the Assistant Director of this division, and Jessica Merkin is a real estate analyst, and she's charged with analyzing all of the different real estate transactions that come into our office and different proposals and applications. In total, we have about 48 employees in the Trust Land Management Division, Field Services Division, and Admin Services. And then we have about 50 employees in forestry, making a total of about 100 or 101 different employees in the Office of State Lands. Overall, our agency mission is to effectively that we seek to effectively manage natural resources and funds for current and future generations. We do currently manage about 3.4 million acres of surface trust lands, and then we also manage 3.9 million subsurface acres. So it is a big job, and specifically in the Trust Land Management Division, we go about fulfilling this agency mission by really diving in and taking responsibility of managing the natural resources for current and future generations. And that's largely through either land transactions like this proposed exchange, but also through various mechanisms of leasing. So we do have state trust lands that are available to lease to different entities. And so we are able to do that across the state. And just to give you all kind of an idea, in fiscal year 2019, the amount of revenue that came into the Office of State Lands was about $190 million. And about 90% of that was from mineral leasing and the royalties that come off of our different mineral leases. I do also want to touch on this slide for the agency mission. One way that our agency does fulfill this mission is through the Administrative Services Division. They have different teams that are primarily responsible for grants and loans and also accounting. And so if maybe some of you haven't heard of Office of State Lands and the land management side of things, but are more familiar with Office of State Lands and Investments and the different roles that we play with providing various grants and loans to different municipalities. The main body governing our management decisions and everything that comes into this office. So it is governed by the Board of Land Commissioners, and the board consists of the five statewide elected officials, including the governor, the Secretary of State, the state auditor, state treasurer, and the state superintendent. And these 5 board members ultimately approve or disapprove of all the decisions that come through and all the various applications that come through the Office of State Lands. In a normal year, the Board of Land Commissioners would convene about 6 times each year, and this would be about every other month. And I say normal year because this year is unlike any other, and they have convened in multiple additional meetings, I should say, outside of the every other month standard, and are meeting more frequently because there are more funds from the CARES Act that they need to discuss, and then also other contentious various land management decisions too. So we meet regularly every other month, and then we can have different meetings throughout the year apart from those regular meetings. The Office of State Lands, we do pursue in all of our management decisions. We do everything on the behalf of the trust beneficiaries, and 86% of the trust lands do generate revenue on behalf of the Common School Land Fund. This fund is primarily responsible, I guess, for supporting K through 12 public education. The additional 14% of state trust lands that generate revenue on behalf of various other beneficiaries, and those can be outlined here on this table. So overall, across the state of Wyoming, it really depends on where the land is located, and then also how the state of Wyoming acquired that land. And that's what distinguishes which beneficiaries receive the revenue that's generated from those lands. So as I mentioned, about 86% of all of our revenue that's generated from state trust land does go to the Common School Fund. But here is a list for all of you on the remaining 14% across the state that do receive funds from our management on state trust lands. In the Trust Land Management Division, we do have 3 objectives, and we do specifically to sales acquisitions and exchanges. We do, and one big note to make on this is that the transaction and any transaction proposal application doesn't need to meet all 3 of these obligations. However, we do consider which ones each application does fulfill. The first one being that it meets the beneficiary's short and or long-term objectives in creating revenue and investment value. So we do look at how the proposed exchange or land transaction application would improve income generation potential. This would be considered either alone or in combination with other state trust lands. And we do look at multiple uses if there are multiple uses that would be proposed on the exchange. We also look at the investment value. So what types of returns are we expected or are projected for the state to receive by investing in and taking part of an exchange? The second management objective is that we look at is how the proposed transaction would improve manageability of the land. And really we're looking at how, if any, the proposal would change ownership patterns. So how it would consolidate ownership patterns, I should be more specific. So we do look at applications and consider how those patterns would be affected. We do like to see more larger contiguous blocks of state trust lands together. It helps with an all-inclusive, overall comprehensive management strategy for that area. And we are better able to leverage our management resources, both in-house and also coordinating efforts in a more efficient manner with our sister agencies. And then the third trust land management objective we consider with each proposal is, does it meet a specific school or community need? And some of these, some examples of community need would be improving stability, providing ample growth opportunity within that area, or perhaps it's improving access, public access and recreational opportunity. Overall, our exchange process is outlined by Chapter 26 of the Board of Land Commissioners Rules and Regulations. And this slide does a pretty good job of breaking it down, but walking through it briefly. Once we receive an application of a proposal, it's automatically listed on a Category 1 list. All of those parcels are categorized under Category 1. And what that means is we do an internal initial review. So our staff gathers together and we look at the various, does the proposal meet these 3 different land objectives, and does it look like a feasible exchange or application? We then, after looking at it and processing the application, we will meet internally and present that presentation onto the Director Scoggin. And at that meeting, she will determine whether or not the application seems feasible, whether or not it meets the different objectives or one of the 3 objectives. And at that point, she'll move it on to a Category 2. Then we do prepare a detailed analysis, and we do present that detailed analysis at an executive session with the Board of Land Commissioners. And at that meeting, they either they'll direct us to prepare or enter into a resolution authorizing the agreement to initiate the exchange. Then we'll go on to actually negotiate and execute that agreement to initiate the exchange. At that point, we will publish the detailed analysis, and then we have a public hearing and we solicit public comment. And then there is one other board meeting where they convene and they do a final board decision, which will then initiate the closing process. Jessica, would you like to talk about the GREET exchange, please?
Great, thanks, Holly. I'll go ahead and share my screen. So I'll just quickly run us through the details of this particular exchange. This exchange is located 16 miles southeast of Tensleep, Wyoming. That's in Washakie County. So we have an isolated parcel of state trust land that has been nominated for disposal. That is the parcel outlined in purple and cross-hatched. And then the pink parcel is what we would acquire should this exchange be approved. And it is adjacent to additional state trust land, approximately 120 acres. And it also has Highway 434 road access to it. So up here is Tensleep, Wyoming, and way down at the bottom are the parcels that have been nominated. So as I said, both of these parcels are in Washakie County. They're 16 miles southeast of Tensleep. The parcel proposed for acquisition consists of 160 contiguous acres. There are approximately 63 AUMs available for grazing. An AUM is a measurement we use to determine how much forage is available for livestock, and it is defined as an animal unit month. So there are 1.33 acres of the Nowood River that transact this property. There's public access from State Highway 434, which crosses through the property. It's adjacent to 120 acres of state trust land, and it's also adjacent to BLM land, as you saw on that last map, those yellow squares. So we anticipate that those 63 AUMs will produce $342.09 annually. That's based on the current grazing rate that the board has established, which is $5.43 per AUM. Additionally, the appraisals did not come out entirely equal. So the applicant in this exchange will have to make a $5,000 cash equalization payment. That money is deposited into the Common School Permanent Land Trust Fund, which was producing 2.47% annually as a rate of return when this detailed analysis was published. So the annual interest from that $5,000 could produce $123.50 annually. And so that brings us to our total anticipated annual revenue of $465.59. So proposed for disposal is a parcel of state trust land that is approximately 152 acres. It's 1 mile north of the parcel that's proposed for acquisition. This parcel also has 63 AUMs. However, there are approximately 40 acres of improvements that were authorized as part of the grazing lease that encumbers much of the land. This occurred back in the 1930s and was common practice by the Board of Land Commissioners at that time. Access, there's no road access, but you can access this property from adjacent BLM land or from walking through on the other side past the home site, which is one of the encumbrances. Currently, this parcel is only producing revenue via the grazing and agricultural lease. So I'll just run through some slides showing some of the encumbrances. There's a pump house, some corrals, there's a home site where there are families living. And here is the map. The blue square represents 40 acres of state trust land. So you can see that a good portion of that particular 40-acre parcel is encumbered. And again, that was authorized by the Board of Land Commissioners in 1938. It's just not common practice anymore for us to authorize this amount of improvements. So currently those 63 AUMs are producing $342.09. That's based off the same rate that I discussed on the previous slide. And that is the total annual revenue that we're making off this parcel. There's currently no other uses. So talking about the appraisals, I said they weren't quite even. The GREET parcel did appraise slightly lower than the state trust parcel. So the GREET parcel came in at $280,000 and the state trust land came in at $285,000. And the biggest reason for that was that the state trust parcel has 0.49 acres more river access, which is something that appraisers look at in terms of value. So a quick summary. The state trust land produces $342.09 annually. There are 152 acres proposed for disposal. It's worth approximately $285,000. The GREET parcel and we anticipate will produce $465.59 annually. There are 160 acres and it appraised at $280,000. So we're looking at an increase of revenue of $123.50 annually. We have the potential to gain 8 acres from this exchange. And we'll receive that cash equalization payment of $5,000. There are additional benefits, as Holly discussed, when we look at the trust land management objectives. It's not all dollars and cents. We also would, through this exchange, be able to consolidate ownership patterns. We would create approximately 280 acre block of state-owned land that would be adjacent to BLM land and that would have highway access. We would be able to optimize our management by acquiring a parcel that's free of encumbrances and has potential to have multiple uses in the future, especially with that highway frontage. Additionally, we would improve access or recreational opportunity. This exchange would provide access via that state highway, and it would also provide hunters with a parcel that's free of encumbrances, and they would no longer have to worry if they're trespassing when they're walking past that home site. So now we will open it up for questions. We'll try to take about 5 minutes worth of questions, and then after that, we will have the public comment portion of this, and then I'll also share my contact information because I will be taking written public comments for this exchange through November 16th. So first, Ben, if we have any questions.
Well, Marguerite, since you're our only attendee, would you like to ask any questions or provide any comment to the ladies here?
Well, first of all, thank you for that really succinct description. And I read the packet and you two summarized it in a few short minutes. So thank you for that. Some great slides. And it was apparent from the information that you printed out before and then from tonight that this seems to be another one of those exchanges that benefits all the parties involved. I'm particularly interested in the school trust beneficiaries being involved with that group, and so I appreciate your efforts to cover those points. It looks like it's again, once again, it's one of those great packages that OSLI has put together that benefits everyone and is going to put some money into the permanent land fund and also increase income to the income account. So as on behalf of the Advocates for School Trust Lands in Wyoming, I would just speak in favor of it. And thank you very much for doing this work. I know there's a lot of work involved in appraisals and such. And so thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Well, with that, again, I'm accepting written public comments through November 16th, 2020. And this is my email address here at the bottom of the screen. It's jessica.merkin@wyo.gov. And that contact information is listed on the website along with a copy of the report that you can all read. And then this is our mailing address if you would prefer to mail comments. All your comments will be attached to the board's matter when they consider this exchange in the final meeting it goes to, and they do take those comments seriously. So we encourage you to send in any comments you might have. And with that, thank you for attending.
Thank you.